How will the young web-slinger react to a world that is slowly turning against him and other teen heroes? Well, let's hop into the pages of Miles Morales' Spider-Man issue number 17 and find out together, shall we? So then, as we join the comic, it's another sunny day in Brooklyn. Miles is swinging around doing his Spider-Man thing in direct conflict with the new Kamala's law that has been passed, outlawing all teenage superheroes. You'll remember this if you read the Champions Outlawed special from not too long ago. Miles stops, though, when he hears a young boy in distress, a boy that he's able to relate to all the better thanks to his own dual heritage and fluent speaking of Spanish. The poor kid's got a fat lip. It seems that 3 kids at school jumped him and now he doesn't want to go back. Miles agrees to walk him back, and along the way they talk to one another. It seems that all the kids' clothes are custom. He's a designer, don't you know, and he's really damn good at it. Miles realizes that this kid is different, but that he's probably marked for bigger things in life if only he can get through the hell that is high school first. After all, the styles and cultures that permeate from Brooklyn end up traveling all around the world. To try and make the kid feel better, Spider-Man decides to pose for an Instagram video saying that anyone who messes with this kid will be messing with Spider-Man and that, hey kids, stay in school. It's a wonderfully sweet, wonderfully wholesome moment that speaks to the power of Spider-Man and that you don't need to make a difference in the world by punching guys in rhino suits all the time. Sometimes you can do it by just helping. I'd also be lying if I said it didn't remind me of the one and only good moment from Amazing Spider-Man 2 where that Spider-Man did basically the same thing. Sadly though, no good deed goes unpunished and Miles ends up getting jumped by the new agents of C.R.A.D.L.E on his own way to school. C.R.A.D.L.E, you'll remember, is the paramilitary group put together by the government to help enforce the new Kamala's law and lock up any teenage superhero that's not going along with the program. Leading this particular detachment is none other than Dum Dum Dugan, which really does Miles head in. Wait a minute, you're friends with Captain America. Captain America supports the young heroes. Didn't you hear him at the Supreme Court? He joined World War II, not much older than me. Now you're walking around in black, arresting citizens? You're literally acting like a bunch of fascists right now, only for Dugan to fire back. You'll respect me, young man. Don't call me a fascist. I fought actual Nazis. And also, don't poke holes in my logic. It doesn't matter what Captain America says, it matters what America says. Spider-Man actually manages to make short work of the agents of C.R.A.D.L.E. Apparently, they thought going after teenagers would be like shooting fish in a barrel. Yeah, they were wrong. A mistake that Dugan swears he's not going to repeat, but by then Spider-Man's already gone invisible and giving him the slip, leaving him with a lot of egg on his face. And considering that he chooses to rock that Tom Selleck mustache by choice, it's not the silliest thing on his face, not by sight. Unfortunately for Miles, his day doesn't much improve by the time he actually does manage to make it back to school, a school that has rebuilt itself following the Green Goblin attack from the previous arc. C.R.A.D.L.E agents have set up outside and are literally getting kids to stop and frisk to make sure that no one there is secretly a vigilante, and again, for teachers like Mr. Dretcher, he knows full well a vigilante goes there. So this whole moral conundrum of whether or not teenagers should be allowed to be superheroes continues to grow all around Miles, as more and more people in his life start arguing that point. Luckily, the agents of C.R.A.D.L.E are pretty bad at their job, as they all abandoned their post once they heard Dugan and his team got beaten up. Later that night, Miles manages to join his family for dinner at their favorite diner. His parents now are, of course, aware of his dual life as Spider-Man, and you'll find it interesting that this whole teen superhero debate has also managed to split the Morales home, but not in the way you might expect. Miles' dad thinks this new law in C.R.A.D.L.E is absolutely ridiculous, which is funny when we stop and consider in the original Ultimate Universe, Miles' dad actually really did hate young super people with a passion. While his mother says that she'll always support and love her son no matter what, she does have to wonder whether or not this new law has a point. After all, she's a head nurse at a hospital. She sees dead and injured kids all the time, and she knows that her son's line of work is very, very dangerous. An interesting counterpoint coming from her when we stop and consider that in the Ultimate Universe, Miles' mom was actually killed by the Venom symbiote, yet another casualty of her son's super life. And yet she only got to live again, and indeed the whole family only got to survive the destruction of the original Ultimate Universe because Miles was nice and befriended Molecule Man. A fact of which they still have no knowledge about, and only Miles is starting to slowly but surely remember again. By the time Miles gets home alone later that night, he finds that his place has been completely ransacked. The intruder is still in the house, and they also just so happen to be as fast as Miles, keeping up with his own unique reflexes, and that is because, well, the person stalking him right now is Spider-Man, or someone dressed as him at least. And it's on that note right there the comic comes to a close, everybody, and so that was Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 17, and I gotta say I enjoyed this one. Saladin Ahmed is basically saying, hey, we're gonna be dealing with the events of Outlawed, but it's not gonna be all-encompassing, it's gonna be more of a background thing. I take my hat off to this one for all the subtle storytelling. C.R.A.D.L.E is going around telling young superheroes what they can and can't do, that they might be in danger, that they might be dangerous, yet meanwhile, Miles actually did more to help the youth of the world in just a few minutes than these C.R.A.D.L.E guys or the government will ever end up doing just by helping and being himself. You know, maybe they could have used some of that money they spent creating a brand new military force and, I don't know, dumped it into a community that needed it or something. It's just a thought. It's not like it's really topical or anything. Overall, I would give this one a 7.5 out of 10. It was a pretty good mix of wholesome tied into an event that I'm still interested in, even if it has cooled off a little bit, which is no fault of the comic itself. What are you gonna do, pandemic?
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cave Jewel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cave Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.